Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Monday to you and happy May the 4th. May the 4th be with you for all my Star Wars peeps. I just wanted to come on this morning and say good morning, say hello, and talk to you for a couple minutes before I send out the work assignment. So, just a reminder that everybody's working at staggered pace. So, for those of you that have been with me doing the enrichment through the beginning of distance learning, which was April 27th, uh, you have been working consistently through. Some of you have stopped, started, and some of you are just starting now. So remember that I sent everything to you in emails. And I taught you this before in class, but I want to remind you about this again because this is something that you're going to want to use with college or career or whatever. But remember, when you go in your school loop email, and you go to your emails, over in the right hand corner, there is a rectangle that says search. And if you ever want to pull up all of my emails at once, remember, just type wood in there, just WOOD, and hit search. And every single email I've ever sent you is going to be there, and you're going to be like, oh my goodness. But and the dates will be on it, so you can follow those dates to make sure that you stay organized about the information that I present to you or share with you. And like I said, you're going to want to know that for college and career, and it's easy to forget something like that. So just remember that. I'm going to yawn in a second. I'm sorry, I'm going to make you yawn. Oh, it is not because I am tired, just so you know that. I'm having some vocal strain. And when I get vocal strain, my throat clenches a bit and causes yawning and coughing. So I'm working on that right now, and the doctor gave me some medication for it. But for those of you that are vocalists out there, you can imagine how frustrating it is for me because I can't sing right now. I mean, I can sing for a second, but I can't continuously sing or work on a song. So I have to be careful with that, and I have to hydrate. And also for my vocalists out there, cut that caffeine. It's hard to do, but caffeine's really drying. So, anyways, back to what I was saying about the work. The other place that you can find the work, remember, is I'm putting it all in the School Loop Locker. It's all labeled by week. So if you want to go back and look at something, review something, if you're moving forward at your own pace, it's all there for you. And finally, remember, if you get confused, email me. And several of you have, and I'm here. I mean, I'm basically sitting here in this office working, making a yearbook still. So I'm here if you need me. Please know that. I know it seems weird because we don't see each other, but I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. Okay. So, Gatsby. For some of you, you just finished the book, and I'm sure you're having lots of feelings about that. And I want you to remember that I've told you this story before, okay? But this always bothers me when people do this, and I really have to have patience about it. I will hear people say you need to be reading at your level. Okay, you do. I'm not saying that you don't. Okay, but if I was reading at my level, then what am I going to do? Walk around with a textbook all of the time? No. I like to read at all different levels. I like to read what I love. Today, you guys know that I have baby ducks in the backyard, and I am about to do a story time with my god baby called reading one of my favorite books called Ducky Seasons. Uh, is it at my level? No, it's a preschool book, but I love it. I love the ducks. I love the seasons, and it reminds me of reading it to my own children when I was little, and it gives me all these great feelings and memories of when I was able to read it to them. And I also love Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret by Judy Blume. I've probably read that book 20 times in my lifetime. Is it at my level? No, it's a fourth grade book, but it reminds me of when I was coming of age and when I was confused and when I wanted to look a certain way or act a certain way, or, uh, I wanted things that my mom wasn't willing to give me in fourth grade, like deodorant and a bra. Um, so I love that book. And when I read that book or other books by Judy Blume, like Super Fudge or Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing, otherwise known as Sheila the Great, it brings me back to these great memories. And so, I don't. like when people challenge people about what they read as far as level. What you want to remember is you want to challenge yourself to read at varying levels. Okay. So sometimes I read a book for pleasure and I know it's going to be an easy read and I'm going to get through it in 2 days. Okay. And sometimes I look at a book and I'm like, oh man, that's a monster. That's going to take me a while to get through. And I'm going to have to really think about that. And that's enjoyable too. So I've told you this story before. One time there was a student, he's actually graduating this year, and a really sweet kid. And he came into my class with a group of his friends to pick something up. And one of his friends, who was not my student, walked in and saw Catcher in the Rye on the desk and picked it up and like looked at the other kid as if disdain, like he was above him, and then threw the book back down and said, "Ugh, I read that in ninth grade. You're reading that now?" And I watched as this really sensitive, sweet, kind kid, blushed and felt uncomfortable and felt stupid, belittled. And I try not to step in right away, but you know how I am with you guys. I'm so protective. And all of the hair, it was like she wolf, I was very upset that he was making this kid feel this way. And so, like I said, it was Catcher in the Rye. So I said, well, oh, you read it in ninth grade. Well, what did you think about it? And, what about the roles of women? What do you consider about that? And what do you think the overall picture was? What do you think Holden was trying to tell us, and what Salinger was trying to teach us? And all of a sudden he became flustered and said, oh, I didn't say I remembered it. I just said I read it. Emoji. Okay, so here's the thing. You may read a book in fourth grade ahead of somebody. You may read a book in ninth grade, but we've talked about this in class. What I would have brought to the table as a person reading Catcher at ninth grade is a completely different thing that I bring to the table when I'm 55 reading Catcher. And I've said that to you before. And that's why certain books, deserve multiple reads, in my opinion. So when I read Catcher in high school, I've told you guys, I hated it. I hated it. I thought Holden was whiny. I didn't like how he was saying goddamn 24/7, throughout the pages. It seemed very repetitive to me. And I didn't really get a lot out of Holden. And I didn't really get a lot out of Holden until I started working the book through with you guys. And then I still wasn't sure how I felt about Holden. And then my nephew died. And I've told you this. And my nephew Rory was very much so like Holden's younger brother Ali. He had this beautiful, fiery red hair. He had this lovely personality. He was getting ready to, go to Austin after college to the music conservatory. And then I lost him. And so reading Catcher in the Rye after that was a hard year reading Catcher in the Rye. I could understand Holden stumbling, falling, being mentally distraught, not being able to get a grip after such a loss. And it really hit home with me. And then I told you guys I had to read it again. Hang on, let me close this email window because there we go. I had to read it again with my class the year that my mom passed away. And once again, it felt really intense. And so this year, I told you guys that when I was reading it, things felt a little bit more settled for me, a little calmer in my grief. And I was really focused on I found Holden to be really entertaining. I loved his humor in the midst of his grief. I loved focusing on the roles of women in Catcher in the Rye and seeing how important they were and how upset I was that Shmoop, I told you that, had kind of dismissed women in the novel because they are such an important part of the book. And they also were a very important part of J.D. Salinger's life, as I told you. Interesting relationships with women. So just because you've read a book in ninth grade doesn't mean you know a book. And just remember that every time you read a book, you may have totally hated reading Gatsby right now, but that doesn't mean you'll hate reading Gatsby 2 years from now, or 3 years from now, or 15 years from now. So you always want to consider what a book brings to the table. You don't want to just read a book and then close it and say, done. Books are about being savored. Authors bring up thoughts to you and, big ideas so that you can start thinking about how they're relevant to you, your relationships, your world. A lot of times, books will teach you something about yourself, and they allow you to feel all these great emotions: joy, sorrow, elation, fury. Um, it's fun to hate a character, and you know it. Tom Buchanan, man, he's a joy to dislike. And then you have somebody like Gatsby or Nick Carraway, that makes you consider other things. So just remember that reading a book, it's not just about when you read it and when you finish it. It's about what you get out of it and what it makes you think about and how it makes you feel. I have books that I read and they just break my heart when I close the page. I've had books, I remember the first time I read Fault in the Stars by John Green. I finished the last page and started back at the beginning again. I also did that with Chuck Palahniuk's Fight Club. Completely different span on books there. But there was something about the writing, there was something about the story, there were things that I missed that I wanted to go back and I wanted to understand better. So I just want you to keep that in mind. If you didn't like Gatsby now, you might like it later. If you did like it, Gatsby now, why? And if you didn't, why? And like I said, Gatsby, this is a great time to be reading Gatsby because there are so many um, uh, cross connections right now, especially, like I said, with the pandemic, with the Spanish flu. And so consider those things, okay? I am already at 12 minutes and I'm babbling on, but I miss you and I miss teaching you. So for this week, for my people that have been consistently, that are ready to move on, I'm going to want you to consider some of the big ideas and the themes related to Gatsby, and something I want you to consider writing about it. And I'm going to give you some information that I want you to look over. For those of you that are still enjoying reading the book, please continue on. Remember that all of the work is in School Loop email and School Loop lockers. If you go to the search bar, you're going to type in what word? Okay. And you'll be able to find all of my emails. And then remember, if you don't want to go through the emails, you can go to the School Loop locker for our class and you'll find everything there. Okay? Last thing I want to say, make sure you check in this week. Even if you're not doing work at this point in time, I, I I want you to do it just to stay fresh, and I want you to do it because I love Gatsby. It's purely selfish, but I want you to check in because one, the district's going to start asking that you check in this week. But above and beyond that, I like to know that you're okay. I'm here. I miss you, and so just send me an email just saying hey. I've seen a lot of you on Instagram, so I am glad I get to see you there, and I've been really enjoying your posts. Seeing your smiling faces makes me feel a little bit closer to you. So I'm wishing you well. Know that I love you very much, and I'm here if you need me. Have a good learning week. Have a good May 4th. I'll see you later. Bye bye.